Hello, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing? Are you enjoying the new summer event? I was honestly surprised. I was expecting like the classic summer event, the fun one, the relaxed one, with no big implications whatsoever, and then they just dropped that big lore bump right at the end of the quest, and a very pertinent one too, at least from my point of view, since I had just finished talking about the very same topic in my last video, so I was a little taken aback in a positive way, mind you. But anyway, if you don't know what I'm talking about, either because you missed my last video or don't know me at all and just stumbled across this and are wondering what this is, you will find my last video about alchemy here, and let me introduce myself also. I am an archaeologist and Genshin player. I usually do deep delve videos behind real life historical references in Genshin and a bit of theorizing on the side also, which has been rather prevalent lately. But today we are going back to my original idea, so we will delve behind some of the hidden references in this game. If you think, of course, that you might like Genshin and history, follow me, give me a like, give me a comment. You can also follow me on HoYoLab. I will leave you the nick and link in the description. So, as for today's topic, it's something that some of you actually asked me to cover quite some time ago. I'm sorry it took this long. And I'm talking about the dialogue of the Desert Sage's staff. I know it's a spear, but it looks definitely like a staff, so yeah. It got dropped all the way back in March during the Alchemical Ascension event, and I remember when it came out, the community, at least on HoYoLab, was like split in two, with one half of the community correctly identifying it as a caduceus. It even gets called a caduceus in the weapon description you can find just below the weapon stats. And the other half kind of laughing at the fact that it looks like it was inspired by some kind of cat captor Sakura ski. So I remember all the memes with cat captor Xiao and cat captor Zhongli and whatever. It was rather funny. Also, a teeny tiny minority wondered whether or not it was appropriate that a caduceus got associated with a healing-based weapon, because as you probably all know, the dialogue of the Desert Sage's passive helps especially healing characters by regenerating their energy whenever they heal another character or themselves, I think. So today we're going to answer precisely this question. Is it appropriate from a historical point of view to use the shape of a caduceus for a weapon that essentially is thought for healers? Well, the most basic answer would be, of course, yes. Most pharmacies, including my pharmacy, use the caduceus as a symbol of medicine, and that's because it was associated with Asclepius, the Greek god of medicine. So of course it's appropriate, except it isn't. Because you see, the caduceus has strictly nothing to do with Asclepius. Ever since the 6th or the 7th century BCE, it has firmly been associated with Hermes, and Hermes is the god of a lot of things. He is a god of commerce, he is a god of thieves even. He is the god who carries the souls of the dead to the afterlife, the psychopompos. But chiefly, he is the messenger of the gods and essentially a traveling god. Traveler god. Following his example, the caduceus or caduceia in Greek were carried by actual messengers to signal their status, because if you live in a world where each city is in like a perpetual state of war with the next one, you don't want your public messenger to get taken down just as it's walking to the next town to signal that maybe you're in the mood for peach talk something, right? So the example that I show you here is an actual caduceus that was found in the city of Brundisium in Apulia and dates back to the 5th century BCE. I saw it in the Archaeological Museum of Naples last April, and it struck me because they're fairly rare to come by, and it also reminded me that I really had to do this video. So if the caduceus is a symbol of messengers, it should be associated more with diplomacy than with medicine, right? So how come the Genshin team chose this shape for a weapon that's associated with alchemy and healing? They're usually pretty spot on with their references. So what happened? Did they just lack off, or maybe they also got tricked into confusing the rod of Asclepius with the caduceus? Do I need to revise my opinion on them, which was rather high, honestly? Well, you can blame it on ignorance, or you can look deeper. The missing link lies in Ptolemaic Egypt. Yes, the same country which worshipped all of the gods mentioned into the dialogues of the Desert Sages lore text, on which I will probably do a separate video, otherwise this will turn out to be way too long again. Anyway, the Greeks invaded and then ruled Egypt from 305 to 30 BCE. And during that time, what they tried to do was to integrate their own traditions into the already long-standing Egyptian society, which had its own rules and customs. And one way they did that was by associating their own gods with the Egyptian ones. In this process, they came across Thoth, the Egyptian god of a lot of things, really, but chiefly of knowledge and writing, and also the scribe of the gods. And it's probably because of this last function that he was quickly associated with Hermes, meaning that Hermes became essentially a god of all knowledge, both worldly and otherworldly. But you see, the thing is that the Egyptian concept of knowledge was, how to say it, a bit wider compared to what we might think of today, or even to what the Greek thought before coming to Egypt. So aside from, of course, referring to all kinds of technical sciences like, I don't know, mathematics or geometry or physics and so on, it also encompassed hidden forms of knowledge, like all kinds of magical practices, divination practices, and of course also alchemy. So when Hermes became a god of knowledge through his association with Thoth, he also became a god of magic and of alchemy. And by the way, that's also why we still refer to this kind of secret practices as hermetic. Seems like Genshin developers really do their research after all. But there's more. Because what about Asclepius? Does he really have no role at all? How can all of those health organizations get confused about the stuff of Asclepius and the caduceus? Is it really just because both of them have snakes around them? Well, maybe, or maybe there is actually a connection. So, once all these kind of hermetic beliefs started to spread and take hold both in Egypt and all across the Mediterranean, starting from the 3rd century BCE and all the way up to the end of the pagan world in the 5th century AD or so, well, a number of treatises were written to sort of guide people towards this hidden truth that was thought to exist outside of the sensible world. And one of the most influential, that was translated in 3 different languages, was the Greek Logos Teleios. Now, Logos Teleios actually means the perfect discourse, and this perfect discourse was spoken by Hermes thought to his first disciple. And the name of this first disciple, which also is the Latin title of this treaty, is Asclepius. Why? Well, because there was a tendency to take all of those demigod figures that already existed in the Greek mythology and make them to be sort of initiates to this kind of hidden truth. And that's how Asclepius also became associated with this whole hermetic world. Now, what happened next is that the Logos Teleios, in its Latin translation, so the Asclepius treaty, somehow was lumped together with a bunch of other treaties on roughly the same topics and got passed down all the way through the Middle Ages up until the 13th century, when it was literally rediscovered by an Italian philosopher, Marsilio Ficino, who translated the whole bunch of treaties, and those became insanely popular with all of the Renaissance authors and, of course, with alchemists. And since alchemy is kind of considered still kind of the ancestor of chemistry, the caduceus, in this meaning of hidden knowledge, esoteric knowledge, got passed down to alchemy, then chemistry, and then medicine. And that's why we're still a bit confused between the rod of Asclepius, the historical one, and the caduceus, which was originally a symbol of Hermes, but somehow became a symbol of esoteric medicine, let's say. And that's all for today. I hope you like this little ride through all that lies behind the dialogues of the Desert Sage's weapon. As always, let me know your thoughts. What do you think about this? Did you know any of it? And also, if you want to suggest any topics that you want me to delve in, either about Genshin or why not maybe also about other games, feel free to ask. But for now, just have a nice day and see you soon, guys. Bye!